What if I told you that Thanos was never the end game? That Marvel has been hiding someone far older, far more powerful, and far more terrifying in the shadows. He's been alive for 5,000 years. He's turned heroes into weapons. And he's finally coming to the MCU. For over a decade, they were absent. While Iron Man was building suits, while Captain America was fighting wars, while the Avengers were assembling, the X-Men were locked away in a different universe, legally inaccessible, cinematically orphaned. Mutant kind was effectively erased from the Marvel Cinematic Universe before it even began. Then came the Whispers, a mutant mentioned in Ms. Marvel. Kamala Khan, one of Marvel's most beloved modern heroes, revealed as a mutant with that unmistakable musical sting. A quiet announcement, a massive seismic shift. Then came Deadpool and Wolverine. And Marvel didn't just bring mutants back. They brought them back with a sledgehammer and a wink. Hugh Jackman's Wolverine returned from the dead, literally dragged out of the void. The multiverse cracked open, and somewhere in that fracture, the door for the X-Men swung wide. Now, Avengers, Doomsday is positioning itself as the next great convergence point. Mutants are no longer a footnote. They are a cornerstone. And when mutants enter the MCU at scale, they don't come quietly. But here's what nobody is asking loudly enough. Who is the villain worthy of that entrance? Because the X-Men don't just need a cameo. They need a reason to exist in this universe. And that reason might be buried 5,000 years in the past. Before we talk about the films, we need to talk about the animated series that rewrote what Marvel storytelling could be. X-Men 97 arrived in 2024 and detonated across the cultural landscape like a charged kinetic card thrown into a still room. It wasn't nostalgia bait. It was genuine, wrenching, sophisticated storytelling that made grown adults cry over cartoon characters in spandex. And it did so with complete narrative confidence. The Genosha Massacre, Gambit's sacrifice, Magneto's tragedy. These weren't moments designed for children. They were designed for anyone who understands loss. Season 1 ended on a cliffhanger of cosmic proportions. The team scattered across time. Reality fractured. And at the edge of it all, a shadow began to form. Ancient, patient, and hungry. Season 2 has been confirmed. And based on the breadcrumbs scattered through Season 1's final episodes, it isn't just continuing a story. It is setting a stage. The imagery of ancient Egypt. The apocalyptic power signature. The complete dismantling of the X-Men as a functioning unit. As if something needed them broken before it could begin. Who breaks the X-Men? Who scatters them across time? Who is powerful enough to make even Magneto pause? He was the first mutant. He will be the last enemy. And he's been waiting patiently across 5,000 years for this exact moment. His name is En-Sabah-Nur. In English, the first one. You know him by his title, Apocalypse. He was born in ancient Egypt around 3000 BC, a gray-skinned infant abandoned in the desert to die, saved by a nomadic tribe who named him after the dawn. From his first breath, he was different. From his first wound, he healed. From his first defeat, he grew stronger. He did not merely survive his enemies. He consumed them, evolved beyond them, and built a theology around the idea that survival is the only virtue that matters. His mutation is not a single power. It is a category. He is an Omega-level mutant with the rare designation of external, a being whose mutation grants him something that defies biological law, near immortality. He does not age. He does not stay dead. He returns. Every century, every millennia, he wakes up somewhere in history and looks at the world his kind has built and judges it insufficient. His powers read like a divine checklist. Superhuman strength that rivals the Hulk. Telekinesis capable of reshaping matter at a molecular level. Telepathy. Energy manipulation. The ability to alter the size and density of his own body. A techno-organic shell that functions as both armor and weapon. Grown from ancient celestial technology he discovered and merged with millennia ago. He has turned his own biology into a living weapon, an engine of evolution that cannot be switched off. But his most terrifying power isn't physical. It is philosophical. Apocalypse genuinely believes he is doing the world a favor. He sees himself not as a destroyer, but as a gardener. He cultivates species the way a forest fire cultivates a forest, by burning away everything weak so that only the strongest can grow in the ash. Sound familiar? It should. But here's where he becomes more dangerous than Thanos ever was. Thanos wanted to solve a resource problem. His logic was cold, mathematical, and in his mind, merciful. He didn't hate life. He wanted to protect it in his grotesque way. The Infinity Gauntlet was his shortcut to a goal he could articulate in one sentence. Apocalypse has no shortcut. He has a philosophy. Thanos' external power source required one definable goal defeatable by undoing his act vulnerable without the gauntlet feared across space-hunted resources. His power is intrinsic, biological infinite. Evolving ideology cannot be simply reverse grows stronger through conflict survived history. Its self-reshaped civilization shadows could be stopped by destroying or reversing the gauntlet. His threat had an off switch, and the Avengers found it. Apocalypse doesn't have an off switch. He is the threat. His body is the weapon. His mind is the plan. His ideology is the infection that spreads even when he is dormant. Thanos wanted to kill half of all life. Apocalypse wants to evolve all life, whether it consents or not. He wants to forcibly accelerate mutation across the entire species until only the strong remain. Not genocide, forced transcendence, which somehow feels worse. And here is the truly unsettling part. He has been doing this for 5,000 years. Every great collapse of civilization in human history, every dark age, every plague, every war that wiped out entire cultures, Apocalypse was watching. Sometimes he was involved. Sometimes he was the cause. He doesn't experience history as a timeline. He experiences it as a testing ground. And he grades on a brutal curve. Thanos was a once-in-a-generation threat. Apocalypse is a recurring nightmare that history keeps writing across its own face. And now that nightmare has recruited an army. Not from aliens, not from machines, from the heroes you love most. This is the horror of the Four Horsemen. This is where Apocalypse stops being a comic book villain and starts being something else entirely. A corruption engine. He doesn't just defeat his enemies. He recruits them. He takes the people you love, the people you die for, and he remakes them in his image, granting them enhancements, stripping them of their conscience, and binding them to his will as his Four Horsemen: death, war, famine, and pestilence. The comic history of the Horsemen reads like a greatest hits list of Marvel tragedy. Wolverine has served his death. Angel became Archangel. His feathered wings replaced with razor metal blades. His gentle soul replaced with a death drive. Gambit, in one of the most emotionally devastating arcs in X-Men history, was transformed into death himself. Gambit / Wolverine both corrupted in separate arcs of Abraham, Kiero's Korean War veteran. Weaponized the Plague / Caliban from the Morlocks in Autumn, Rolfson transformed, power amplified. Now consider what this means for X-Men 97 Season 2. Gambit is dead. Or is he? His sacrifice in Season 1 was the emotional center of the entire series. But in Apocalypse's hands, death is not an ending. It is a recruitment opportunity. The idea that Gambit could return, not as Remy LeBeau, but as a supercharged horseman of death loyal to the most powerful mutant who ever lived, is one of the most emotionally devastating story possibilities Marvel has ever had access to. Rogue, who loved him. The X-Men, who mourned him. Watching them face a Gambit they can barely recognize, wearing his face but not his soul. That is not just a superhero conflict. That is a tragedy. Can you defeat someone you love? Can you look into familiar eyes that no longer recognize you and still throw the punch? That's the question Apocalypse always forces. And it's the question no other Marvel villain has ever asked this cleanly. Here is where the mythology of Apocalypse becomes relevant to the entire MCU in ways that could shake the foundation of everything Kevin Feige has built. In Sabah, Nerd didn't become Apocalypse through mutation alone. He discovered, in the deserts of Egypt, an alien ship, a celestial vessel, and the technology inside merged with his biology, amplifying his already extraordinary mutation into something virtually limitless. He is not just a mutant. He is the intersection of mutant kind and celestial power, the very same power that created the Eternals, that seeded humanity with the potential for greatness, that has been quietly present in the MCU since Eternals 2021. 3000 BC, Sabah, born in Egypt, discovers celestial technology, becomes Apocalypse that throughout HIF of multiple dormancy/awakening cycles, for great civilizations shaped or toppled. Horseman recruited across eras, the X-Men 97 Season 1 and G team displaced across time. Egyptian imagery surfaces. The ancient god stirs again. Season 2, incoming. The X-Men scattered in time must navigate Apocalypse's origin era and face him at the height of his first power. MCU Avengers level crossover. The god who outlasted every civilization stands against Earth's mightiest heroes. The time travel element is not a gimmick. It is a narrative master key. By scattering the X-Men into the past, specifically into ancient Egypt, the writers can show us Apocalypse not just as a present-day monster, but as the architect of civilization's shadow. Every great mystery of antiquity, filtered through the idea that the first mutant was present for all of it, becomes newly sinister and magnificent. And the celestial connection? That's the thread that links X-Men directly into the larger MCU tapestry. The Eternals storyline established that Celestials have been shaping Earth for millions of years. Apocalypse, a being supercharged by celestial tech, is the wild variable that the Celestials never accounted for. A mutant who absorbed their power and turned it to his own ideology. A god who refused to serve his creators. When the Avengers eventually face Apocalypse, are they just fighting a mutant? Or are they fighting something that was shaped by the same cosmic forces that shaped the Celestials themselves? Let's be honest about the Fox X-Men films. Some were extraordinary. Days of Future Past remains one of the finest superhero films ever made. But the franchise had a fundamental structural problem. It was isolated. The X-Men existed in a world that didn't connect to anything larger. Their stakes were always contained within their own mythology. The MCU changes all of that. When the X-Men arrive in a universe that already has Thor, Doctor Strange, the Scarlet Witch, and the Eternals, every X-Men story immediately acquires cosmic weight it never had before. The persecution narrative gains new dimensions when mutants exist alongside gods and aliens. And the arrival of Apocalypse, an ancient being with celestial technology who has shaped thousands of years of human history, is not just an X-Men problem. It is an everyone's problem. Think about the crossover potential. Doctor Strange, the guardian of time and reality, must be alarmed by an entity who has moved through 5 millennia without consequence. Thor, who has lived through those same millennia as an Asgardian god, may have encountered Sabah before, and the implications of that meeting are staggering. The Eternals, servants of the Celestials, must reckon with what happens when someone weaponizes celestial technology against them. An Apocalypse storyline in the MCU is not a contained X-Men event. It is a civilizational reckoning. It forces every corner of the MCU to answer a simple question. What does your power mean against something that has outlasted every empire that ever existed? And here's the part that should keep every Marvel fan awake at night. We are only at the beginning. Season 2 hasn't aired yet. The live-action MCU X-Men project hasn't been announced. The story that's coming is not a chapter, it is a saga. And it has been 5,000 years in the making. Season 3 of X-Men 97 has been confirmed. That confirmation is not a routine business decision. It is a commitment to a long-form villain arc of a kind that Marvel Animation has never attempted before. A 3-season structure with Apocalypse as the overarching threat mirrors the way the Infinity Saga built Thanos, slowly, methodically, with immense patience.